Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tightline. Man, I'm really excited about the day today. We're getting to do something we don't always get to do. We're actually at a brand new lake, and that's what we're going to help you do today. Maybe you get a chance to go to somebody's pond or lake that you've never been to before, never seen it before. That's kind of like it is here. I drove out and just looked at the pond yesterday, and we came fishing this morning. So we're going to try to help you understand when I'm in a strange body of water, how do I approach that body of water, and how do I catch some bass. So what I did is I rigged up several things. One thing to always remember is when you're in a strange lake, unless the depth just prohibits you doing it, throw something you have a lot of confidence in. So if you've ever seen us fish, you're gonna see that I just about always have one of these on. This is a Zoom speed crawl. It's a little crawfish imitation bait, and this is a green pumpkin magic. The water here isn't really dirty, but it's not really clear. So that's why I picked the green pumpkin, and I dyed the claws just a little bit chartreuse. And then one of my other favorite baits to use in a pond, particularly right now we're in about middle spring, is a Zoom trick worm. And this is just a white, straight worm that I fish with no weight on about a 3/0 hook. And I'll teach you guys how to throw it in a little bit, but we just throw it out and jerk it a couple times, let it sink. Looks like a dying bait fish or something like that. And then I've got a topwater bait, a popper, and a small crankbait on that I can search with. So those are the baits we're going to use today and start with and try to catch some fish on a new lake, so stay with us. Hey guys, what we do at Go Fish Ministries is share the gospel and encourage believers in their walk with Christ. We do this through a variety of events such as wild game dinners, kids camps, men's events, music events, or even if you or someone you know just needs a day on the water. Go Fish Ministries wants to point you toward Jesus and help you know Him better. Contact us through our website. We'd love to serve you any way we can. God bless you and go fish. I caught my first fish on a popper, and then I threw it and a trick worm all the way around the lake and didn't catch another fish on it. So I decided to go with what I had confidence in, and that's a Zoom speed crawl. You know, and that's the thing, when you come to a strange lake, you think, oh man, it's a perfect floating worm lake or trick worm lake. And if you can't make them bite, you can't make them bite it. We may need to, because I really believe there's a few fish in this little pocket, but we may have to throw something a little different to catch them. There's one. He's too little to even eat it. Tell you what I'm going to do while I'm talking about it. That's one thing you always want to try. If your gut tells you to do something, then you probably should do it. I'm going to pick up a little Texas rig crawl here and throw it up in these places where I feel like there's some fish and see if we can get a bite. Another little one. And what we've done is we've thrown these faster moving baits and top waters around and really didn't get much of a bite. And so one of the keys when you come to a place that's a strange lake is to throw something you have a lot of confidence in. And this little bait right here, little speed crawl, is something it's probably my #1 confidence bait. And I started throwing it and caught one pretty quick. And these are these little ones we're telling y'all about that are management fish we're going to keep out for these folks so their pond doesn't get overpopulated. Here's another one, and what I'm finding, you hate to make an assumption right away, is that there's an awful lot of fish this size in here, which probably means our friend's lake is overpopulated. And so what we're going to do is keep a lot of these littler ones out, and the more you keep out, the better the bait fish population can become. This fish is actually something tried to eat it, maybe a blue heron or maybe even a big bass. We know there's some big ones in here because we've seen pictures of them, but this one isn't. There he is. I got another one. I think that's every cast for the last 4 casts. I think he came off too. And they're just in here. One of the things that when you come to a strange lake, you know, what are they eating? Why am I throwing a crawfish? I always assume, unless I've proven wrong, that there's crawfish in a lake. The way you can tell is if you walk around and those little, what I call chimneys, might be around the lake. It's where they dug a hole in it, makes a little chimney, but you don't even have to really see those. Almost every lake you can assume has crawfish, but this little bait looks like more than a crawfish. When you get that color, it can look like a brim, it can look like a little small catfish. Anything a bass eats kind of looks like that on the bottom. And then, well, what if they're following shad or little bait fish? One way to check that is just to kind of walk the pond before you fish. And if you see these little shore minnows along the bank, you can probably assume they're hitting little minnows also. But something like this is going to imitate 3 or 4 different things. That's why I think I like it so much. It's a very versatile little bait. And I've had 3 or 4 bites on it, and they've just been so small they can't quite get it in their mouth. That was kind of a weird deal. I started to reel that crawl in, and halfway back to the boat, this little one came and blew up on it on top. Alex and I were just talking about that. We'd seen some fish out here kind of in the middle chasing stuff, but clearly these fish they need to keep a bunch of fish that size out of here. Still having fun, just catching little bitty ones. So what this is turning out to be, it's a fun day, but we're really helping do some pond management for our friends that own this pond. Apparently, there hadn't been a lot of fish kept out of here in a long time. What happens when you have a pond and you don't keep any, they all end up getting stunted because there's more fish than there's a bait supply. And so if you have a pond or have friends that have ponds, if they'll allow you to keep them, I think the general rule is about 25 pounds of bass per acre per year, so they need to be keeping about 75 pounds a year out. I think of these 7 we've caught, it might be 3 pounds, so we're helping them a little bit. The speed crawl's working. That one's about twice as long as a speed crawl, but it's catching them. That may be, let's see, if that's last year's hatch, that means these fish are only growing about 1/3 of a pound, and that's not good either. They need to be growing about 1 pound a year minimum down here in the south. If they're only growing like that, they don't have enough to eat. That's what this is telling me. This is a place my dad would call the bus stop. They're just ganged up in this corner eating. And they're all like twins or triplets or whatever, little bitty. But they're still fun to catch. I could hold him way out like this. He looks about 2 pounds. We're gonna have fun cleaning some tonight. That's crazy, isn't it? That little fish must just come up behind it and run toward me. On the speed crawl. On the speed crawl. Pleasure. Many times as we've shown it here, though, a lot of times I still have people ask me how you rig this thing, so let me show you real quick. I'm gonna get a new one because this one's about torn up. Take him off and put him in the bottom of the boat and save him for later in case we're run out of them. But basically, I'll take one and I'm gonna just spray the claws. And I like to just spray the claws, not anything else, just a little bit of the claws. And the reason I do that is kind of 2 reasons. Number 1, that scent I think makes them hold on better. Number 2, if you've ever seen a crawfish in the wild, typically their claws are always a different color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in with my hook on the side that has the word zoom on it. It's the flat side. And I'm gonna come until that hook turns and push it out. Then I'm gonna let it fall under the hook and push it all the way over the eye of the hook till the eye is covered. And that little crook right there is what holds it up. And then I'm going to look at where that hook lays on the side, and I'm actually going to push the point through where it was laying. And then hopefully when you do that, it's laying flat. And then I'm going to back it up just a tad and hook it in the back of the bait just a little bit. And I'm using an 1/8 ounce weight and a 2/0 hook. And that is a speed crawl. They may be little, but there aren't many places you can go and catch one every cast. Literally the last 4 casts, we've either caught a fish or had one on. That fish is a little bit bigger. He's about 10 inches. He'll make a pretty good little fillet. And that's exactly how the speed crawl is supposed to do. The hook is supposed to come all the way out of it, and it's supposed to run up the line. That way the actual crawl is out of the way of setting the hook. And then you just slide it back on there the way it came off. Yes, sir. Big one again. He actually is a little bigger than some of them we've been catching, but not big by any stretch. My son would ask me why they got orange eyes. Typically, if the largemouth have orange eyes like that, it means they're either spawning or have been spawning. I don't know why that is, but it's typically what that means. That fish was actually off the bank a little bit more, but so I thought maybe it'd be a little better one, but he's about the same. They're all about 8 to 10 inches long and skinny. But it may be later in the day they're moving off the bank a little bit. That's funny, the last couple fish, originally we were fishing there all are right. I mean, you had to hit the bank to catch them. And the sun's been out 5 minutes and these fish are already a good piece off the bank. And we have tried a lot of other things. And sometimes you come to a place like this and that's uniquely that way. We've tried catching them on crankbaits, we've tried topwater, a little floating worm, but bite after bite has been on this little crawl bait, and I think it's more the size, it's a little bait for these little fish. That's a big one. He's a little different color. I wonder if he's been up there shallow. No, he's about the same. He looked a little different color when he first came up. We're gonna throw this little speed crawl around another 15, 20 minutes. It's about mid-morning. And then we're gonna change up a little bit and see if we can catch a bigger one. There may not be any bigger ones in here, but we're gonna try anyway. Right there. Oh, 10 inches instead of 8. Come on, fishy, where you go? No, about the same size. That fish just kind of got on there. Didn't really peck it. He just got on the speed crawl. Ooh, almost lost him. That would have been bad. That's saying something when they're littler than the ones we've been catching. I guess he's about the same size. Come here, brother. The other thing that tells you these fish are overpopulated is the width of their bodies. They're skinny, which means they're not getting enough to eat. They need to be thick through here, and they're not. They're skinny. So we fished the speed crawl all morning and got a little later in the day. We thought we'd try something different to see if we could get a little bigger fish, and I'm throwing a rattle trap, a 1/4 ounce rattle trap, and boy, did it ever work on the bigger ones. Look at him. He's got to be 7 or 8, 10 inches. But he ate it pretty good. So we're gonna keep trying. Got another one on the rattle trap. I think the key also still though is these fish are almost right on the bank. This little color I'm throwing it's a good color to throw this time of year. It's a baby bass, and a lot of times bass will eat smaller bass. And he was trying to. And he got every hook in him, I think, that's on this bait. About 8 inches. There's a fish. I got him. There he is. Oh, that's a good one right there. That's the best fish of the day right there. He was way out off the bank. Yep. That's what we've been looking for all day right there. Fish hit just like those little bitty ones. That's funny. I don't know how big this fish is, and this fish is going to prove a point too. It's a really nice fish. Ooh, it got me wet. But he ought to be a really big fish. This fish is about 2.5 pounds probably, which is by far bigger than anything we've caught today. And the fish has the width. It's a pretty wide fish right through here, but it's really skinny, which means they just don't have enough to eat in this pond. So we're gonna keep trying to help our friends manage their pond here. But that's a pretty fish, just needs more to eat. We're gonna let it. Man, we had a lot of fun fishing today. It's something I don't get to do very often, and that's go to a lake that I've never been to before. I actually shouldn't say I'd never been there. I went the day before and looked at the lake so we could see where to put the boat in. That was about the extent of my experience on this lake. So it was really cool putting the boat in and starting from scratch, knowing absolutely zero about the lake. Didn't know anything about it. So what we did was we experimented with a variety of baits. But at the end of the day, and you'll learn it by watching this show, one of my very favorite baits is called a Zoom speed crawl. And the majority, and when I say the majority, every fish with the exception of 3 or 4, we caught them on that bait today. So I started out knowing nothing about the lake, but what I did was I went with something that I had confidence in, and that is the speed crawl. Lots of times when you go fishing in a strange place, that's what you need to do. If you know nothing about it, go with something you have confidence in. And unless it's really cold winter and your confidence bait is a topwater or something like that, you're gonna get more bites on a bait that you have confidence in. So when you have no idea what to do or no idea where to go, pick up something you have confidence in and use it. You know, there's something else I'm 100% sure of. I went to this place not knowing anything, and when I left the lake, I was 100% sure that I could catch those fish on a speed crawl. One thing that I do know as a fact, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that Jesus Christ wants a relationship with each and every one of us. Why do I know that? 2 things. Number 1, I believe the Bible is true, every word in it. Number 2, there's a verse of scripture that probably all of us know by heart, is John 3:16, and it says this: "For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have eternal, everlasting life." Now the word in there that gives me confidence is whoever. That covers everybody in the whole world. It means that Jesus Christ wants a relationship with you and with me. Now, I may not know much, but what I do know is that He wants that. And so if you're watching us today and you're saying, man, I don't have a relationship with Him, the simple way you do it is ask Him to forgive you of your sins, ask Him to come and live in your heart and be Lord of your life. Thanks so much for listening this week. Hey guys, what we do at Go Fish Ministries is share the gospel and encourage believers in their walk with Christ. We do this through a variety of events such as wild game dinners, kids camps, men's events, music events, or even if you or someone you know just needs a day on the water. Go Fish Ministries wants to point you toward Jesus and help you know Him better. Contact us through our website. We'd love to serve you any way we can. God bless you and go fish. So kind of how the day's gone, we fished all the way around the pond, figured out that a speed crawl was about the best bait to catch them on, caught a bunch of little bitty ones. And so what we're surmising is that this lake is really overstocked. And so we're gonna try to keep all these little bitty ones out. Just caught one nice one and it was way off the bank. So I may concentrate a little more on fishing this bait all the way back to the bank. But on days like today, you know, and you're just out fun fishing, we took a little break, ate a sandwich. I stepped up out of the boat for a little while and stretched my legs. And you know, those are the kinds of things you can do on days like today. And don't forget to do that. Part of the fun of being out here is not just catching fish, it's enjoying the day, enjoying God's creation, enjoying a good sandwich, and just having fun and catching a few fish like that. Oh, he's running right at me, he came off. I don't know, I feel sure that there's not a lot of, in fact, that actually encouraged me. I was telling Alex earlier, I felt like there were probably 1,000 of those little tiny ones in here and 3 or 4 giants and nothing in between. So to see a 2-pounder, that's a really good sign, because a lot of times it gets so out of balance. All you have is 4 or 5 really big ones and a whole bunch of little tiny ones and nothing much in between. So we just decided to go back. I fished all the way back around the pond. I threw a rattle trap for about half the pond and then a jig for the other half, and only caught 2 little ones on the rattle trap, none on the jig. And as soon as we pick up the speed crawl, we start catching them again. So we're not going to overcomplicate it. We're going to fish the rest of our day with a speed crawl unless something changes. May be the littlest one yet. I had to wait till between pulls on that one to catch him. Down in the corner where the wind's blowing. Guess what I caught him on? A speed crawl. So it's definitely been a fun day, but definitely been a day with a lot of little fish. And so kind of our lesson today is in new places, mainly throw some things you have confidence in. And if your friend's pond is overstocked, help them keep some fish out. And that's what we're doing today. Sometimes you go on a day and you catch things on a variety of baits. This particular day wasn't like that. We caught the majority of the fish, all the fish we caught with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 on a Zoom speed crawl. And so when you have a day like that, you know, if you're catching them pretty good on one bait, you might just have to stay with it. I know variety is what we typically preach. Variety is what we want to learn. We'll learn how to fish a lot of different kinds of baits. But some days, if it's working, and you need to stick with it. You hear me a lot of times talking about skipping, and the key to skipping is 2 things: keeping your bait low and doing what I call a little sea cast. It kind of goes like this, and it looks like this. And that'll get a bait way under a dock, or way, you know, up beside a stump or something, and it actually looks like a little bait flitting. It works really good. Just about to finish the day. We pulled up. We hadn't been around this dock in a couple hours, so I thought we'd skip a floating worm around it. And I actually got 2 bites and missed both of them. So we backed off and gave it a minute, and we're going to try again. Trick worm's a little easier to skip than that Texas rig. There he is. I got him. He was way under the dock. Way under that. He's running straight out. I can't tell if he's a little one or a big one or a medium size. For this lake, that's a lunker right there. That might be even one I let go. But that was kind of cool. That fish had skipped way under that dock, and when I picked up, it was heavy. And he just had that trick worm in his mouth. And we got him. I think I may actually let that one go. He's a 12-incher. We've had a great day today. Caught a ton of fish, mostly little bitty ones. Turns out today was a day probably more about pond management and helping our friends get rid of a bunch of little ones, but always love coming to new lakes. That's what we did today, and ended up catching 95% of what we caught on our confidence bait, a speed crawl, and a couple bonus ones on this trick worm. But thanks so much for being with us. Join us next week. A lot of times you're going to hear me refer to this thing called a Texas rig, and I want to explain it to you. A Texas rig is basically just a bullet sinker and a hook. And so for our purposes, we're using a small 1/8 or 3/16 ounce sinker and a 2/0 Gamakatsu extra wide gap hook. So the way you rig it is you put the bullet weight on first as if you were shooting it onto the line, and then you tie your hook on. And so these are going to stay together, but that thing slides so that the fish don't feel the weight. And then I'm going to take the hook, and mostly what we did today was a speed crawl, so I'm going to teach you how to rig the speed crawl, but it works the same with a lizard. I'm going to come into this speed crawl on the side that says zoom on it. It's the flat side of the crawl. I'm going to push it into the head about 1/4 of an inch and then come out. It's kind of right where the hook turns the first time. I'm going to push it down the hook all the way over the eye of the hook, and that's real important. You want it to cover the eye. And then you want this hook to lay flat on the back of the speed crawl. So I'm going to bend that speed crawl up and push that hook straight through. And if I push it straight through, that thing's going to lay straight. And it's laying right there on the back. Then I'm going to back it up about 1/4 of an inch and then just barely skin hook it in the back of the speed crawl. That way it comes across things, but it's just barely hooked in there, so when you set the hook on a fish, there's not a lot of plastic there to get in the way. And then finally, what we were doing today is we were taking a little bit of Spike It garlic chartreuse spray dye, and you just want to put a little tiny bit on it. You don't want to cover the whole thing, you don't want to get it all over it, just a little bit, just on the tips of the claws. And what that does is a couple of things. Number one, craws almost always have a different color claw. And secondly, that garlic, that salty scent, when they bite down on it, it tastes real natural to them. So they hold onto the bait a lot better. So that's a Texas rig speed crawl. And hopefully anywhere you go, you can catch some fish on that little bait right there. It works almost everywhere we go. Hey guys, what we do at Go Fish Ministries is share the gospel and encourage believers in their walk with Christ. We do this through a variety of events such as wild game dinners, kids camps, men's events, music events, or even if you or someone you know just needs a day on the water. Go Fish Ministries wants to point you toward Jesus and help you know Him better. Contact us through our website. We'd love to serve you any way we can. God bless you and go fish.